What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and as promised, we finally have another update regarding the SRD 5.2. If you've been following along so far, you'll know that we've had, we've been hearing it was going to be weeks after the Monster Manual was released. We're now within 2 months time period, and we now know officially coming next Tuesday, April 22nd, the SRD 5.2 will be dumped into Creative Commons, meaning it'll be available for all of us to utilize in perpetuity, worldwide, yada, 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 legalese terms. So thankfully, all of the negative comments and naysayers regarding whether or not it was going to show up or not just turned out to be just that. And, thankfully we are going to get it, which is good because this is something a lot of us have been waiting for when it comes to creating content for publication or sale in the 2024 rulebooks. So there was an article released about an hour ago, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at that right now. If you like what I do here, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot, and it is just literally that one click for you. So, coming April 22nd, publish your own creations using the 2024 core rules. With the release of the new core rulebooks, we're announcing the upcoming publication of the System Reference Document 5.2, also known as the SRD 5.2. The document will provide materials that creators can use to publish content compatible with the 2024 rule set. The SRD 5.2 will release under Creative Commons license on April 22nd. It will coexist with SRD 5.1. You can learn more below. Let's not even speculate. Let's just scroll down. What is the SRD? What is the SRD? The SRD contains the base rules for D&D. It is used by third-party publishers to build products using the D&D rule set, which creators can reference in their products without paying a license fee to Wizards of the Coast. SRD 5.2 includes foundational content from the 2024 core rulebooks. You'll find an updated and expanded library of referenceable content, such as the rules glossary, weapon master properties, and exploration mechanics. For creators who'd like to continue creating content for the 2014 rules, the SRD 5.1 will remain unchanged. That's a really important point that I think several people potentially missed there, is that the concept of weapon mastery as it exists in 2024 D&D, where you have Nick on a dagger or Cleave on a great axe or what have you, that is 2024 core rules mechanics. You technically couldn't create content and release it, say you make a new level 1 to 20 class and it's martial based and you want to say that, it has this many weapon mastery property unlocks or what have you. You couldn't do that because that was trapped under 2024 and therefore not part of the SRD 5.1. Now, if you want to do that going forward, it is part of the SRD 5.2, so you can go ahead and use any of the foundational changes to the rules that exist in it. So what is Creative Commons? Creative Commons is a nonprofit licensing network that allows creators to share their work freely while retaining certain rights. Publishing the core game mechanics of D&D under a Creative Commons license provides a legally binding promise that the essential parts of D&D will remain free to use, remix, and build upon forever. This, again, I'm going to get Noah, my lawyer friend, you've seen him on the channel before, out here on Tuesday after it officially releases to have a further discussion. Maybe we'll even do a live stream and then we can take your questions in the comments and see what you guys have to say. But more or less, the fact that it's in Creative Commons means it can't be changed from Wizards of the Coast. So this was the big issue if you've heard about the OGL situation or if you're familiar or not. Basically, the ability to create content for 5th edition was all originally housed, this is a very short summation of this, under what was called the Open Game License, which was released in 2016 or so, which allowed creators to make content using the core rules of D&D, and then without having to pay any kind of licensing fee to Wizards of the Coast, and then also, not having to be subject to copyright infringement or cease and desist and things of that nature. Now, the problem with the Open Game License originally is it was completely held by Wizards of the Coast, which meant they could do whatever they wanted with it. Now, the concept of the Open Game License had existed for many years, all the way back to 3.0, 3.5 timeframe, which is why Pathfinder even exists as a game, because it was iterated on from the original 3.0, 3.5 classes under that version's OGL. But it being owned by Wizards of the Coast meant that if Wizards of the Coast, or probably more than likely Hasbro, wanted to be greedy and say, you know what, we're going to change, alter, remove, or what have you, the OGL going forward. We're going to also backdate it and get rid of stuff from the past. That was all a thing they could do because the license was held entirely in their own hands. Again, this is a horribly simplified version of the events that happened, but more or less that was the nature of it. So when the outrage happened, and then ultimately the creators won when SRD 5.1 was dumped into Creative Commons, which means the capability of holding that license and changing that and removing it and any of that was no longer in Wizards of the Coast hands. It's now in the public in the Creative Commons license, which means it's forever usable by creators. And again, that is what they're committing to do here as well with SRD 5.2 going into Creative Commons next week. What's changing from SRD 5.1 to 5.2? SRD 5.2 makes it easier for creators to transition their third-party content that was written for the 2014 rules to the 2024 rules. Wizards of the Coast will later publish a conversion guide that will help creators update their content to the new rule set. More details will be released for this. I'll cover that in its entirety. But technically, right, if you've released a bunch of content in 2014, you couldn't technically convert it. You could on like the table level if you wanted to like take somebody's subclass and then try to adjust it to the 2024 rules using the base class and things like that. You could do that. But again, as we're talking about with like brand new classes, trying to utilize those mechanics wasn't technically a thing. Now there's an opportunity for a lot of creators to just release update packs to all of the content that they've already made. And again, the fact that Wizards of the Coast is working on a conversion guide for folks to be able to do that is a very smart idea to help ease that pain for people going through that process. New creator FAQ page. To help support our creator community, we are developing a creator FAQ page that will provide information regarding creating third-party products, fan content, and more. On the new creator FAQ page, you'll find resources like the soon-to-be-released conversion guide, as well as information about the fan content policy, D&D Beyond's homebrew tools, and pointing your readers to official D&D content not in the SRD. That's very interesting. We haven't really seen any updates to the fan content policy in a long time, and I'm very curious about this concept of D&D Beyond's homebrew tools. Could that mean there's an opportunity for us to create content on D&D Beyond for publication via the homebrew tools? That's probably pie in the sky and very wishful thinking, but who knows? I guess we'll see. SRD 5.2 and the errata process. SRD 5.2 will be regularly updated to incorporate the latest errata for the 2024 core rules. The first errata of these new core rules has just been released. We're going to do a separate video on that, so stay tuned. And SRD 5.2 comes with these changes implemented. When errata is released for rules within SRD 5.2, the SRD will later reflect these changes and its version number will be updated, SRD 5.2.1, 5.2.2, etc. All future versions of the SRD will be released exclusively under Creative Commons for consistency and broader compatibility. What are the D&D Beyond Basic Rules 2024? With the release of the SRD 5.2, we're replacing the Free Rules 2024 on D&D Beyond with the new D&D Beyond Basic Rules 2024. The online resource is intended to help players and dungeon masters learn how to play the game. Are the D&D Beyond Basic Rules 2024 the same as the SRD 5.2? No, although you will find overlap between the basic rules and the SRD 5.2. Only SRD 5.2 is being released under Creative Commons. The basic rules cannot be used in content creation. Okay, so there may be some differences there. We'll have to take a look when we see it. Where can I learn more about the SRD 5.2? D&D Beyond will be the home of SRD 5.2, SRD 5.1, and everything you need to know about creating third-party content for D&D. When SRD 5.2 releases on April 22nd, we will launch a page dedicated to accessing and answering frequently asked questions about SRD 5.2, which will also be accessible from this post. We look forward to your creations. We're grateful for the community of third-party creators and players who bring our adventures to life. Our goal is to offer tools that help to support the creativity already thriving in the D&D community. Make sure to check back to D&D Beyond on April 22nd for the release of the SRD 5.2 and further information. So, hey, listen, we wanted transparency. We wanted to know when things were going to happen and what's going on. I feel like while they haven't been silent, because there have been posts on forums kind of giving us updates, they went ahead and they outlined it. And you know what? They said it's going to come next week. And rather than waiting till next week to just drop it on us and say, hey, here it is, they gave us an update basically a whole week before to say, hey, just a heads up, this is coming next week. It's going to be updated with the errata, which, by the way, the SRD 5.1 wasn't really updated with any errata as time went on. And there were some big changes. For example, there were some mechanical changes to some classes and things as time went on that were not incorporated because the SRD 5.1, the original kind of open game license version, was basically the same from when it was released. There was one update that did things like add major things like Eldritch Blast, which was needed because how are you going to make a Warlock subclass without being able to use Eldritch Blast in your creation? But there isn't really regular updates to it, which now it seems like every time we get an errata for a core rulebook, it's going to be dumped into the SRD 5.2 in Creative Commons, which is really great forward thinking to help show that they're really looking to support this going forward. Now, the only thing that's missing from this, and I don't expect it to be here right away anyway, is what about SRD content for older editions? So technically, if you were operating under the OGL from 3rd edition, that technically is still an OGL, which means it can still be revoked. It is not currently in Creative Commons. Now, the process that we've heard is that obviously they need to go through and scrub the data so they don't remove or accidentally add anything into Creative Commons that they don't want to do. Because once it's in Creative Commons, anybody can use it, depending on what that might be. So that could be something as simple as a name. For example, in the SRD 5.1, Count Strahd von Zarovich was added into the SRD 5.1 because it's referenced under the Paladin's Divine Sense ability, which means the name Count Strahd von Zarovich is now in Creative Commons, publicly usable for anybody. You can't use, obviously, like his official stat block or any of the lore surrounding him, but you can technically, this is not legal advice, by the way, but it is in the SRD 5.1, so it is in Creative Commons. That name is technically floating out there for usage. Things like that. So we knew that it wasn't going to be until after the SRD 5.2 officially released, but there's a potential that we might get older edition SRDs dumped into Creative Commons. So that means you'll never have to worry if you do decide you want to go back and create 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th edition content, that you'd be able to do that without have to fear of the licenses being changed in the future. So that's the only other thing that they committed to doing in the future when possible. So once this is out, we'll be on the lookout for that going forward. But again, I don't know how much clamoring there is for that, so I'm sure it's not on the top of their list. But hey, they did say they were going to look into it. So even if they just give us a formal answer, yes or no, that's the next piece of the puzzle to be on the lookout for going forward. So anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below about this. It's great to see that it's finally coming out. And if you've been hanging off putting out your Kickstarter because you were waiting for this, well, hey, at least now you can get ready to start getting things launched. So be on the lookout for that separate video covering the errata updates for the first set here that are going to be implemented in SRD 5.2. And I will see you all next time.